I'm Emma Russell, and this is SEO in 2025.
Emma, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
My number one SEO tip for 2025 is to make sure that you're using the right tech for you and your business. And if you are migrating, make sure that you're getting them right.
If you are migrating, make sure you're getting it right.
Not always easy, a little tricky.
Not always easy. What would you say constitutes a migration? Because you hear of different types of migration nowadays. What are the key types of migration?
Yeah, so there are a few. You have your classic domain name migration, where, for example, you might change from example to example one. Your domain name is moving from one to the other, and that can be for a number of different reasons. That can be probably normally like a branding decision. For example, I know that FreeSol, for example, they changed their domain name from Hire FreeSol to FreeSol. I'm not entirely sure why that happened, but it might be because they don't want to be focusing on just products for women anymore. So that's the branding decision around a domain name migration. So you change names, and normally there's a reason for that. Also, a number of years ago, there was the cheeky addition of an S next to HTTP, which is an extra layer of security. That's technically a domain migration because you're moving from one to the other. So an added layer of security meant a lot of migrations. You have your platform migrations, which is where you're changing your tech. So moving from something like Salesforce, for example, to something that is headless, or moving from WordPress to Shopify if you want to include some kind of e-commerce element and you don't want to go with WooCommerce. Or, it can be also something like a hosting migration, which sometimes happens at the same time as a platform migration. Sometimes something like Squarespace, it comes with the hosting provided. So if you want to change your tech, you also have to change your hosting. And that can be going from something like Squarespace or something like GoDaddy to something like 20i or AWS, something like that. And then you have redesigns, which is technically, I think, what SEOs would call a migration, because so many things can happen during redesign. You might end up losing all of your nice titles that you've added, or your structure of your content might change, or your site architecture might change. And so any kind of mass change across a website, we would typically call that a migration. Sometimes you will have unsupervised accidental migrations. One that I came across lately was that all of the product URLs changed because something happened with the feed, something went wrong, and then all of the product URLs changed. So that's your URL migration, where all of your product URLs have changed. They've moved from one to the other. That one was unsupervised, and so there was a lot of cleanup for that. So those are your typical migrations that you come across, although I personally would probably classify a migration as any kind of mass change across the site.
Wonderful summary. Thank you very much. And interesting fact for everyone. At the moment, 86% of websites now use HTTPS, which is an incredible amount considering the fact that the majority didn't just a few short years ago. I mean, if you're not selling anything on your site, would you say it's acceptable still to use HTTP, or should every site be using HTTPS?
I would use HTTPS. Yes, yes. Because even if you're not selling something, you might have a form on there or something like that. I would say it's just best practice now. And with a lot of different platforms, you get it for free. If you're starting up, then just set it up right from the off. And if you're migrating, then what a better time to go for it now. Excellent mug, by the way.
For audio listeners, you can perhaps describe what you're saying. It says, okay.
I am your father. I'm assuming it's a Star Wars reference.
So I feel these kind of things have to be explained to audio listeners, because there are quite a few audio listeners to this particular show. But Anyway, today you're sharing the top 5 things to do when migrating your site. So starting off with number 1, understand if it's an opportunity for growth.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So sometimes a company will do a huge migration and this is your time to shine. Maybe you've got a load of things in your tech roadmap that haven't been actioned for a really long time and you've been nagging and nagging those project managers and you just cannot get them through. This might be your time to get them through. So absolutely understand what you can actually achieve if you are doing something like a platform migration, what you can achieve in that new platform, and then say, these are my requirements to actually make the most of it. Ideally, you would have been part of the decision, or you would have said, I need this from a new platform so that you can help with the decision making around that. So making decisions around the tech that you're eventually going to be using. Ideally, that you would have been part of that. Although I'm sure that there are some people thinking out there, the old saying from yesterday, you never get fired for bringing in, was it IBM? And now it's Salesforce. You never get fired for bringing in Salesforce. So luckily, Salesforce is pretty configurable. It's not amazing at everything like any platform. You're never going to get the absolute gold mine of a platform. There's always an issue, but that's okay. There's lots of other requirements in there. And as long as it's configurable, then you can change it to get what you want out of it. So first thing, see if you can actually help with the decision making. But I guess the second thing, and if that decision has been made, is this the opportunity for you to get all of your requirements in so that you can grow and create a really solid technical foundation on that new platform.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm not going to go down the Salesforce rabbit hole because that's going to take all day.
We'll be here until next week.
Number 2, benchmarking what you have now.
Yeah, because if you're getting any traffic to the site now, always good to know if it is brand or generic. So if you're getting lots of traffic now, but it's all from branded terms, then something got you to that point of getting the amount of traffic into the site. If it's all branded, then it was likely branding exercises that have brought you in the traffic that you have now. However, if you have a pretty strong generic and brand split and you're ranking for a lot of nice, decent generic terms, bringing in nice amount of generic traffic, something about your site got you to that point. It won't be an accident. Google doesn't, sometimes you do wonder why something is ranking, but typically there is a reason for it. And typically, on the whole, it is good SEO, although, of course, you do have bad actors and spam. And if you have seen any of Lily Ray's LinkedIn articles or posts lately, then you'll know that there are some definitely spammy results ranking in the top 10. So Google's got a long way to go. It always will do, because it's fighting bad actors at the same time as trying to consistently make a better user experience. But on the whole, it's typically down to good SEO. So you need to list what is good about the site now, because it will be for a reason that you get the level of traffic that you have now. So then part of that benchmarking exercise is then communicating that to people and saying, hey, we have this that is really good. It's leading to this amount of traffic. Preferably, you can also link to that to some kind of business objective, for example, leads or sales. And if it's e-com, then absolutely get in those figures, revenue figures, and link that to what is working so well.
I like the fact that you almost said Google has no accidents, but you changed it to there's a reason behind everything that Google does.
Yeah.
Number 3 is list all of your requirements.
Yes, list all of your requirements. So once you've identified what is good, you need to make sure that you're keeping it. So that should be the first thing in your requirement. If you've got, really great content on your site, your first requirement should be, firstly, not to lose that content. Sometimes as part of redesigns or, platform migrations, things like that, sometimes decisions are made that X piece of content might not be serving you for a brand perspective, or they might see that actually no paid traffic goes there, or somebody might just not like that content anymore. But if you then say, actually, it's doing this for the company, it's bringing in this traffic, it's bringing in these conversions and this amount of revenue, you can then say, no, because we definitely need to keep it. unless you are happy to sign off this percentage of traffic loss, of revenue loss, of lead loss. So this is particularly useful, this tip, if you are agency side, because you will be held to account if you lose any amount of traffic. And if you make errors like that, then you will absolutely lose the account. But you need to absolutely look after your clients. And you need to make sure that they know absolutely that something will be lost and the impact of it. So always make it their decision then to say, okay, I accept that loss. It's not your decision to make as an agency that you accept the loss. No, you can never do that. You have to make it their decision. So definitely take that one on board. So yes, definitely get in all of your requirements for what is making you so good now. And then link that back to your first point, whether this is a chance to grow or just maintain what you have. If it's just that you're wanting to maintain what you have now, that list might be enough, as long as you're also factoring in everything that you need in terms of making sure that Google catches up to the journey that you've just made. If that's, for example, a domain name migration, you will absolutely need redirects. So factor that in. If it is a chance actually to grow off the back of it, then make sure that you've got all of your requirements in at also this point that will help you to grow, and make sure that you've got that buy-in. So, for example, this group of tasks, we want to go after this opportunity size, and this is how we get there. So 3 batches of requirements. 1, what has made you so good? Keep that. 2, make sure Google's going on the journey with you. And then 3, can I actually grow off the back of this as well?
And number 4, make friends with Dev.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're doing the task, right? You need to absolutely make friends with them. I think one of the best working relationships that I've ever had has been with a developer who was just doing, he sat opposite me. So if he was ever doing anything and he had to make a decision between X and Y, he would say, do you think Google has a preference on which one I do? And by sitting us so close and having that relationship, I could then feed in on everyday tasks that he was working on. And the SEO was going really well there as well. So that I would definitely say, make friends with your devs. Preferably, if you can, sit near them. I know we're in a pretty distributed workforce, I think is the phrase now. I, for example, work remotely. So, I'm always hitting them up on Slack. But yeah, try to get in there as much as possible. And you will absolutely want to be testing on lower environments as you go. You don't want to leave it just to live. So get in there, know what's being done, know when your requirements are being worked on, and then make them a cup of tea, really great press.
And number 5, test.
Yes, absolutely. You never know the surprises that you're going to have when something goes to live. Ideally, nothing is a surprise. Realistically, that never happens. There's always a surprise. Something hasn't migrated across, or some subset of URLs they haven't redirected properly. So absolutely test. When I was working with a previous client, it was a big US department store. They went live and all of their canonicals were pointing to staging. And I kid you not, within 5 minutes of go live, every single URL that they were ranking for was for their staging site. So within 5 minutes, it was pointing to staging for a big department store in the US, which is just absolutely wild. So luckily, the fix for that was rolled out pretty quickly, but that's the kind of surprise that you're dealing with. I think what I would recommend is get your ducks in a line and say, I personally end up with 2 testing documents, and this is outside of staging. This is just for live. One where you say, these are my major requirements. If something is wrong with my testing in this list, I will tell you immediately. And this is high priority stuff. This is rank or not rank, get traffic or not get traffic. And so everybody knows that if something is wrong with this list, you'll know within 5-10 minutes, and we need to action it now. And then I have my other testing list where it's much less urgent. It's the things that we absolutely want to have. Like, for example, you want to make sure that your titles are all correct, but it's not make or break. It doesn't have to be fixed within 5 minutes. And so I'll do all of that testing doc and say, well, I'll nudge you if something is urgent on this one, but otherwise you'll hear everything at the end, and then we can work through them from there. Because then it primes people to say, okay, Emma's come back with something urgent. We need to work on this. This is not good. We need to fix it. So people are primed because there are always surprises. So yeah, absolutely test.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time sitting with devs in 2025?
So I don't know if anybody out there uses Loom, but when you record a video on Loom, it will say, oh, sorry, just to check if nobody has used it who is listening. It's this screen recording software, and you can record what you're doing on your computer and speak, and it'll record everything. It's a nice piece of software. And then at the end of it, it'll say, congratulations, you've saved 5 minutes of time. And it's using tech like that. And I guess I would be aware of the time that you have. That saves a lot of time in meetings, because what I have had before is that I spend all day in meetings and then I haven't done anything. My partner once had a day of this. He was in calls all day, hit 5 o'clock, and he said, right, time for work. Better get some work done. So I would still say, save as much time as you can by not being in as many meetings, and always make sure you have an agenda. It's an oldie but a goodie. So I would still say that is my recommendation.
Emma Russell was founder at Oxford, Digital, and you can find her over at oxford-digital. Emma, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you very much.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.